Hello and welcome to another episode of Monday Rewind. We survived the Oscars and so did you, apparently. If you're here, apparently it was kind of a close call, especially if you're Japanese, seeing as how they start the music halfway through your speech. So, welcome aboard, and we have a lot to talk about today. Jacob, how are you?
I survived 3.5 hours of the Oscars last night, so I still got at least one more beer in the fridge, so I think I'm all right for the time being.
Yeah, for now, right? Until they decide to do a follow-up.
Yep, until it's time to
But,
crack open that last core.
yeah. So, if you haven't been following Twitter today, YAIRA launched, made over $800,000 as we're being corrected here. The thumbnail's incorrect. It's over 800,000 now.
It
Almost
just
to
moved so fast that it became irrelevant in like less than an hour after we made the
less.
thumbnail.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it's been today. Like they can't generate the graphics fast enough to tell people another $100,000 has
Yep.
poured in. So it's going pretty intense over there. And of course, any success on the internet must be met with derision and rage. And here we find out that the Rippaverse Twitter was down earlier today due to hacking attempts, as well as the website was down earlier today due to hacking attempts.
Yeah, like I said, they saw the money was going up, and then all of a sudden, just so happens, we're gonna hack July's site because we're still butthurt over the fact that he's getting all this money and we're not. Why is everyone supporting the Eric July? And yeah, I don't think it's any coincidence whatsoever that as the amount was going up, all of a sudden they became hacked. It's like, yeah, I think somebody was targeted them pretty specifically.
Yeah, exactly. And here we are, like, it's still not recovered yet. You don't have the posts back, you don't have the replies back. This is
Yeah.
still a locked down Twitter account after it, so they're still trying to get full control of it again. Eric even says as much here. He says, "Thanks so much for the support. We are working on restoring access to our Twitter. There have been hack attempts all over the place. YAIRA number one is almost at $800,000 right there. Wow.
Hmm.
That was just a half an hour ago, by the way.
It's like, how consumed with jealousy do you just need to be like at this point? It's like, I get it. I don't think even Eric, like he probably even tell himself that he didn't expect this whole venture to be as successful as it was. So it's like this is kind of taking like everyone by storm. But there's so many people here who are just, like I said, completely envious, completely butthurt because he's gotten this success. And I guess there's kind of like an offense that, well, he didn't go through us to get this success. He kind of like made his own path. It's like, yeah, that's a good thing. A lot of people should be making their own paths right now.
Well, I mean, again, like we see it right here. This is the third original series that he's launched now through the Rippaverse. And I kind of, it might be third and a half with Norfolka, by the way. Norfolka is also part of that release in the first I saw him, so, or the second one or the other. So, it might be the fourth original series, but yeah, the third to have its own book is out now, available now, over $800,000 and hacked, apparently. And I don't. Again, I can't say who's behind this. I don't know. They haven't come out and declared it the way ISIS used to. But yeah, we don't know. The day is young. They may not have given up the goose yet. But the what we know about this though is that as soon as this crossed $600,000, they immediately came under fire. Before they launched, even there were bot attacks going on with the website, trying to trip up the. They have like a slowdown access
Yeah.
page when you go there. I think I can bring it up right now. In fact, hold on. And the Rippaverse. Hold on. There we go. Yeah,
There we go.
good there. Yeah, and so they have like a waiting situation here. There are four people ahead of you. This is your visitor number at the time of this arrival. And so what this does is it slows down DDoS attacks that go after the website and stuff like that. So, you
Uh,
know, um, by the way, this starts to fulfill here at the end of the month. So if you were expecting to have to wait for this, by the way, there's a huge trailer made for this. We can't show it all because, of course, it's rightfully copyright protected. But did you catch this? Did you see this trailer?
Yeah, I actually did catch this trailer a little earlier. Like I said, yeah, I did understand for a first time shot, and obviously a lot of guys like try to like figure things out. I mean, I know they got some experienced people working here, but for the kind of their first attempt at doing a live action Thor, it looks pretty solid. I mean, it looks pretty good. Look, I've seen enough movies to know what a bad movie like looks like, so I do like what they went with here. Now, that the argument that I did hear is that did they reveal too much? Well, with this one, should they kind of dial it back a little bit, like the interest build? I can see that argument, definitely, because usually like movie trailers are about like 2 to 3 minutes, and depending on how much like information you want to like give away there. But because this is their first project, they probably wanted to reveal a lot more to kind of get people like interested. So I see both sides of the argument, but yeah, I like what they did here with this one, especially some of the effects they did look pretty good.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the actress that they chose for YAIRA. Her accent was a little off, in my
Hmm.
opinion, but I don't
A
hate
little,
her.
a little Putinish. Is what
I wouldn't even say Putinish. It just kind of feels like I think this is what a German, Russian, Chinese person sounds like, an aggressively not American person
Yeah.
sounds like. And I just wish that they had said like, "Hey, just talk. It's okay. Just talk. It's all right. You
Hmm.
don't have to be whatever you are."
Like you can almost hear like the Russian national anthem playing in the background as she speaks.
Well, I don't even know where Yaira comes from, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. The name sounds like it's Polish, but it could very well be straight up Russian. I don't know, but yeah, she's also really tall.
Oh yeah.
She's wearing heels here, but she's also really tall. So I mean, they went out and they found a actress that fits the bill for a superhero lady person, and did this a whole five. Well, what is it? Uh, 3.5 minute movie trailer. It's like honestly, Jacob, when I saw it, I thought it was like it felt like a CW preview, like at the end of an Arrow series
Yeah.
season finale. Like, now
Mhm.
stay tuned for this fall on the CW, Yaira. You know,
Yeah, yeah, I definitely get what you're
special
saying there.
preview. Yeah.
Remember the CW? Remember when that was the thing? That
Yeah,
was a good
remember when you could
time.
it was respectable for 5 minutes? Remember that? Yeah.
There was
Never
a time
mind.
period somewhere in like the 2010s where it's like they did have a couple of solid shows there for a while, and then it just went completely off. I think it was when Riverdale took over. That's when everyone turned on it. I
Yeah.
think that was the turning point for
It
for
got
the
really
CW.
it got really everything went 90210 right around that
Yeah.
time. All of the shows did. Didn't matter what you were doing. They
I
all
mean,
took a hard
hey,
turn every
I
year.
like Nikita. I like the 100. They had some good shows there at for a time period. I mean, some people were in the Vampire Diaries, but I mean that's a whole nother conversation there. But yeah, no, I definitely like the actress that they got here. I mean, she definitely stands out for the project that they're going for here, which I think was the right move. And I mean, hey, I mean, there's guys out there that are like Amazon women too. So I mean,
I see a mountain, I have to climb it, Jacob. You know?
hmm
That's how it goes, my people. Michael says here, there's a dialect coach in the credits. I agree they could have dialed back the accent, but it's not a big deal for me. No, again, like it's a trailer. It's not a 3 hour movie where we have to deal with uh Chomp instead of Champ
yeah.
and stuff like that.
And
So
your thing you have to remember too is, like I said, this is their first project, so you have to accept there's going to be a lot of trial and error here. There's going to be
yeah,
a lot of mistakes with your first time around, but the important thing with a project like this is that you have to take the criticism legitimately, knowing that this is your first time in, because
yep.
these are things that you're going to have to work on if you're going to like perceive this. This is going to be the first of like many projects here. You guys start building. It's like, hey, we can't make these mistakes, or hey, this is something that we need to work on. There's some things that you're not going to be able to get right until you actually do it, and even when you do it, you still have to get your hours in, as they like to say, before you really figure out like what you're doing and what you're not doing. So
Well, and this is great. I'm sorry, to anybody who wants to really like open up and tear this apart. I don't. I don't really see a
mhm.
problem with it, honestly. This feels like between a sci-fi original and an Amazon Prime show. And again, like this is I'm talking like this is going to lead to like an episodic series next month or whatever. It's coming out
Yeah.
and Netflix is releasing this. This was made to promote a first issue comic, okay? This wasn't some big war that this character's been building up towards. This is her arrival that they went and did this for. And one of my favorite parts was how the trailer opens up with Avery just destroying this Kia. Like I had a sonnet here in the beginning here. Try to go back to it where he's just look at this. This is so cool. Like they dropped a guy. Like they dropped a guy. That's not CGI. He fell into that car.
No, he's dead.
Yeah, that man is dead. Yes, they killed a man for this YAIRA trailer. So that's why you should back it. You should get it today.
Someone died for this project.
Purposefully.
Yeah.
He knew his fate. But yeah, no, like this is great. And he opens up and he says, like, I've trained my body to do things that people like me shouldn't be able to do. But flying isn't one of them. And he falls into the car. And I love that. That was so funny. That and it's a Kia. You, Korea. You.
Yeah, right. I mean, say, hey, you put it like this, if you ever need like a stunt man, there's this guy on AEW called Darby Allin, and he's known for doing really dumb things for no money. So if you ever need somebody for future reference there, just call that guy. I mean, he literally did a 20-foot swanton bomb off of a ladder onto real glass about like a week ago. So there you go. Those are the guys you got to find.
Yeah, it's a quality, high production trailer to sell a comic book. The closest thing I'd ever seen come to this is USA Assassin by Mark Polton, and they did like an introduction for a character named the Mercenary, but it was only like maybe a minute and a half long, and it was really just shot on one location with just a set of actors demonstrating that this guy is physical and he's aggressive and he knows weapons, that kind of thing. Again, I'm not trying to look down on it, but that's the closest thing I've seen come to it to promote an independent property like this. And I'll remind you, Eric July did this. This wasn't a bunch of people getting together to crowdfund this trailer. He put the money aside, he put the talent aside to get this done. Wow.
I mean, one thing I also like about this could like start a trend. I mean, I know some of the indie guys have done this. We just haven't seen it like on the main stage here. It's like, yeah, why don't we actually like start doing trailers to get people like excited for comic books again? Like I said, it doesn't have to be anything extravagant or anything like that. This is something that was done in a 4-minute like trailer. This is something you can do like within a week essentially if you're like really committed to.
This is pretty extravagant. I guarantee you, Eric spent less than 300,000 on this. So
yeah, I mean, like compared to like say, like I said, there's a lot of guys who will do like talking about like 20-minute. I'm talking about as far as like time goes. I'm not talking about like money. I'm talking like this is something like essentially like a 3-minute like trailer. Like, I'm saying that you have to do like a full like 20-minute like short or anything like that. Just essentially like 3 minutes to kind of just sell the idea, and then it's like okay, and here's our comic.
Right, and that's just it. Is like a lot. I make them for my stuff. I've done them for John De La Rose, and like a lot of people when they go to make these, they sometimes just flash text on the screen with like some heavy metal music, some no copyright heavy metal music in the background, and it's just text, and then really pixelated images just flashing in front of you, and it's like back at today. It's like I don't even know what just happened. Everything just flew right by me. But that's just what it is that this sat down and actually gave like a feel of it, an actual, are you serious?
So you just had the exact same reaction. I had to verify to make sure that was real too before I pulled it up. It was like, did he actually like really say that like unironically? But apparently it is a source on Spotify.
I'm sorry to just like jerk you guys around, but yeah, this apparently just happened. I don't know how to play his name.
Juan Carlo Esposito. Let's just put it that way.
Esposito. Juan Carlo Esposito would play Professor X, but without the wheelchair. The physical idea of being in a wheelchair every single day does not appeal to me. I just don't feel that old, and I don't like to sit that much. Well, then you can't be Professor X.
That's kind of the central aspect of his entire characters.
Like, I'm sorry, dude. If he's walking around, he's not Professor X anymore.
So you're going to be a race swap Professor X who's not in a wheelchair.
What do they call that? Able swapping? Is that able swapping? Is that what that is?
Ableist or some nonsense like that.
Instead of paralyzing his legs, you're going to paralyze his arms? We can't, like, pick his nose? He's,
Yeah, so I'm just like, we can literally get literally anyone else who will be a much better fit for that role. It's like I don't know. We're trying to, I guess, manifest is the term that these kids use, these new age kids use, when they say we want to manifest Professor X and Magneto being black and the X-Men being about the civil rights era instead of like Nazi Germany and like all of this like nonsense that we've been talking about over the last several years. I just think to myself, is this what we paid $71 billion for? Is it this what Disney paid $71 billion when they bought Fox so they can have the rights to the X-Men and their franchise? This is what we got after several years.
I mean,
And
it could be worse, right?
oh
You know,
yes,
with Madam Web.
oh man, yeah. This story. Then we also have a follow up that's coming up on Bounding too. But
Oh,
Sydney Sweeney follows in her footsteps, lampooning Madam Web on Saturday Night Live. Now, apparently, she was given the approval to do this little jab at Madam Web because I think it's been like a month already, believe it or not, since this film came out. I believe at the time I checked last night. It's made about $95 million worldwide on a budget that was about $80 million. So it has not been profitable. It's not even close to profitable. I think it has to be like 250 is what the number that I heard worldwide before it turns a profit, and it's nowhere close to doing so. So this was just an absolute flop all across the board. And you had Sydney Sweeney on Saturday Night Live last week.
yeah.
She had to just take it on the chin and be like, yeah, I guess no one went to go see our movie, you know, that's out in theaters like right now, even with a bunch of seemingly attractive women in the world. Everyone's like, nah, you know what, I'll pass. But
Mhm.
I guess to kind of play up on this, there's also a story that we got working on Bounding right now where there is rumors that Sony is not happy with Dakota Johnson because Dakota Johnson has been a lot more public and a lot more direct with her burial of the film. So there could be a threat of blacklisting Dakota Johnson here over her reaction to Madam Web. We've kind of talked about this over a couple of shows the last couple of weeks. She talked about the fact that, you know, even during the premiere of the movie, she didn't watch the movie. She snuck out and, you know, went and got food like somewhere else, didn't watch the film, saying she probably never watched the film. She made some recent comments over the last couple of days saying how she'll never do a superhero movie like ever again, and this is not the experience for her. So keep in mind, I'm pretty sure they were trying to like levy this to be like, hey, maybe we can do some other Madam Web films, or at least have these characters in like other Spider-Man related movies. And Dakota Johnson is like, yeah, I'm probably done with like this whole thing. So Sony is reportedly very upset at Dakota Johnson right now because she's essentially putting all the crap on this movie, and you know, not really like giving anyone any of, I guess, people behind the scenes like some praise, like, hey, at least you guys tried it, clap clap clap. But yeah, they're upset that, you know, their film is tanking, and the star of the film is like, yeah, this film is trash, I probably never
Yep.
watch it. So I don't blame you guys for not wanting to watch it, because I don't want to watch it either.
And again, like when your leads are out here bad mouthing it, it's something really because they get
Yeah.
paid millions of dollars to not do that. Their contracts stipulate for a certain time period they can't do that, and
Well, like I said, we all remember the story. What was it, Frank Trank with Fan Four Stick, that film that came out about 10 years ago,
yep,
where, you know, before the movie had even released, like, he pretty much came out and said that, yeah, the studio screwed me over, and, you know, this is not the movie that I wanted to do. That the movie sucks. It's because of them. Before the movie came out, before anyone really saw how terrible it was, he threw everybody under the bus, and they essentially blacklisted him. I don't think he's been. He might have had, but maybe like one movie in the last 10 years since that whole incident happened. And if you looked ahead of what Dakota Johnson, I think she only has one film that's currently in either pre-production or at least in the rumor stages right now. So Sony could very well make the same type of move with her, or at least send the word out that, you know, hey, this chick isn't gonna play ball, even if her film, you know, bombs. She'll make throw you guys under the bus. But I mean, I know she's like a nepo baby. That's what the kids are saying these days. But that doesn't give you carte blanche to just go over there and crap all over the films, all over your press tour. And I do find it very interesting how just like a week ago, people were saying that, oh, you guys are taking Dakota Johnson out of context with the things that she's saying about the film. But every time they were trying to pass one of those articles out, a new interview would come out where she's basically like doubling down and tripling down on everything that
yeah.
she's saying. So it got to a point where it was like, okay, look, we can't defend this anymore. So it's gonna have to make a call here. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, because it seems like Sydney Sweeney's star is shooting up, while Dakota Johnson might be on the run down here, based on this film, which is a very interesting turn of events.
Maybe she and Tom Holland can get married and buy like a nice farm in like Nevada or something like
Oh no,
that.
she can't marry Tom Holland because Tom Holland's dating Zendaya, and
Oh,
if he left Zendaya for Sydney Sweeney, like Black Twitter would literally like riot, like it was 2020. So that would not be a good look for anyone and involved in that whole scenario.
well, speaking of Black Twitter, Sweet Baby Inc. Caused quite a stir up after Akira Toriyama's death, insinuating that Mr. Popo is a racist caricature.
They
Yep.
can't. These people just can't help themselves, can't they?
Nope.
It's like the guy just died. He was getting universal acclaim for Dragon Ball. And like I said, Dragon Ball is a property that's affected a lot of people's life. Obviously, there's people who are varying fans of Dragon Ball. Some of you guys might like the original Dragon Ball more than Dragon Ball Z, or some of you guys may be big Dragon Ball Z fans. I happen to be one of the few people who like Dragon Ball GT, and I feel vindicated that Super sucks, but that's a whole other conversation. But everyone was paying their respects here to Toriyama, and there's always that one person who's got to be like, let me make this about me. Let me now that this guy is dead, he can't publicly defend himself anymore. Let's call out the problematic designs that he was in charge of for so many years, and people were just like, really, you this wasn't a problem to you at any point of the last several years. This is the show that's been around for what, 40 years, close to 40 years up to this point, like 4 decades. And you wait till the guy dies, and all of a sudden, hey, let's talk about how problematic Mr. Popo is. It's like, no, how about you go F off?
A character from the very first season, by the way.
Yeah,
Okay.
very first.
A character that is undefeated, by the way, in the Dragon Ball universe. Okay. And so the other thing is that as Spencer kind of delivers to us here, is that in the most probably the most terribly named child ever is Chris Kindred. I don't know of a fella who should have been named Christopher or Christian Kindred or whatever the heck his name is.
Is
And there's
this a woman though? Because the avatar kind of implies it may be a she.
I don't know. I see long hair and I think like Bob Marley before I think, lady.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry. That hairline suggests dude to me. I don't know. That's a drawing
Whether
too.
you're
So
she, her, them, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
right.
You're a douche.
Right, there you go. Right. And so Toriyama gave us the best and worst black characters in anime in the same series. It took Range to do that. Was his first volley,
Mm-hmm.
and then he went on to
Is this still based on like the whole the lore that, oh, Piccolo is actually a black person because we said so, because we identify with Piccolo for some weird reason? Is this them trying to like make racial characters from a region that doesn't care about black or white one way or another?
well, really that's the thing is that well the Japanese do, but they're like some of the most racist people on the planet. But
Mm,
Mr. Popo is not that. They're what the actual excuse is that they're trying to pull this from like the old blackface cartoons, where the character would be in like a stark black coloring and then like red lipstick around the lips.
yeah.
The vaudeville shows, stuff like that. That's what their claim is that Mr. Popo is a fat vaudeville blackface character. But in reality, he's actually based off of this Indian god Makahala, uh,
Yeah.
Mahakala, excuse me, Mahakala, who is an overweight Indian god, minor god
Who
of
looks like a
terrible
demon.
renown. Yeah, who looks like a demon. So you know, but that again, like that, this is what they claim that is not part of it because they always forget that this is something that Akira Toriyama draws on is like the world's faith
Yeah.
around
It,
combat.
it's it's because these people live in a bubble where they don't realize that, hey, in certain countries, especially in the 1980s when this whole thing started, there's people out there like black identitarianism is not in any of their like mindset like whatsoever. Like they're not basing like everything in their entire life based on the black race or representing black people or blacks on film. So just because you see someone who looks black, like quite literally like dark black, not even like actual African American black, they just their immediate reaction is, oh, this person is racist against me, not even taking into consideration that this character might have nothing to do with you whatsoever.
Well, exactly. And okay, here we go. I'm sorry, I was looking for this clip. So you remember how you
Mm-hmm.
said like Piccolo's that, and I was thinking like, why are they doing Piccolo? And I was like, oh yeah, because he's the only guy that's not like Saiyan in their group or
Yeah.
Krillin. You
Because
know?
it's funny how, you know, they want to identify with all these Dragon Ball Z characters, but they can't identify with the Saiyans who turned into big giant monkeys with tails coming out of their butts. Like, they don't want to identify with those characters because that'd be a little too problematic.
They want to identify with a dickless green bean. That's right.
Yeah, right.
My body contains over 9,000! Nerd. Balls. What? My body contains over 9,000! Nerd. Balls. What? 9,000? There's no way that can be right!
This is YouTube poop.
There's no way that can be right! There's no way!
Some of you kids might not remember that this used to be a form of entertainment on the Wild West days of YouTube.
Yep. Don't worry,
It's
if
like-
you have ADD, that tingling feeling you just got, that you should pursue that.
YouTube poop, its slogan should have been "For autism, by autism." That's literally what it is.
Right, exactly. It's great. It's great. And again, like, you can go there right now and hear all about how Dende's balls are a nerd, right?
Mhm.
But that's what's going on with Sweet Baby Inc. this week so far, or rather last week. And now we're going to have to look forward to a bunch of other fun little treats as they continue to protest. Apparently, someone of the employees went to the curator page and asked they delete it because it's going to destroy the business. So that'll be coming up on the Bounding website, reporting on that later on as well. However, Jacob, as you know, Zack Snyder said some dumb things.
Oh yeah, did he ever? So Zack Snyder, who's no longer in charge of the DCEU, who has essentially been written out of his own universe, rightfully so at this point. I mean, look, I defended Zack Snyder just on the sole basis that I think that some of his films got a little too much crap. Like, I didn't think that some of his films, or the ones that he was involved with, was nearly as bad as everyone was saying it was. Like, I remember people absolutely like losing it over like Batman versus Superman. And I was like, well, you know, there was things about Batman versus Superman that I liked. Of course, the whole thing about Martha that was like really stupid. But I thought the Wonder Woman portrayal was like pretty well. Like, that was one of the few moments of that film that people in the theaters were actually clapping and being excited for. So there was good to the bad. I don't think that he was ever great in any kind of way. And I think that his Justice League Snyder Cut film that finally got released kind of showed the overall flaw with his filmmaking, is that, yeah, if you give him 4 hours to create a movie, he can give you a halfway decent movie. But if you need him to cut that to about 2 hours, then a lot of the stuff that he does just doesn't make that much sense. And when you're that kind of a filmmaker, I mean, it just is what it is there. But obviously, he took a lot of crap for his portrayal of certain superheroes in his universe because, you know, as we all know, Superman and Spider-Man, the two biggest characters in DC, are very much against the killing, and he didn't take too kindly to that. He thought that, you know, having to go with what, you know, the comic book fans were expecting out of this characters was him putting himself in a box, and he kind of lashed out at the character. So he sat down with Joe Rogan. I'm not sure exactly when this one took place, but he was being criticized about, you know, how his DC films have received hatred. I'm gonna say hatred, but at least criticism, maybe a little bit both, out, for being honest with you, but criticism from comic book fans. He says that that's a lifestyle choice for a lot of people. It's not a movie. He says, if I were to make it a romantic comedy, you'd be like, okay, that was fun. And director explained, the people who love, and by the way, I love that they feel this passionately, and in no way I would criticize that. But because I live the same life, because for me, it's morning, noon, and night. But for those guys, it's not just a movie. So if you have to, on some level, acknowledge that this is their religion, talking about comic book movies, they feel strongly about it. And the truth is, it's my religion too. He went on to, I guess, criticize essentially the whole Batman canon, that, you know, Batman can't kill. And he was saying that, you know, I tend to get into trouble because I take this deconstruction view of, you know, certain characters. Obviously, you can look at the Watchmen as an example of this one, but he says that people are always like, Batman can't kill is canon. And he explained that it's like, okay, but the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. It's like, and they go, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone, he says. And he says that, well, it's that, and you're protecting your God in a weird way. You're making your God irrelevant if he can't be in that situation. He has to deal he has to now deal with that. So if he does that, what does that mean? Does he stand up to it? Can he survive as a god, as your God? So he's directly criticizing anyone who was saying that, yeah, in one of your your Justice League films, you had Batman literally like murdering people down, mowing people down with like guns and like tanks and all that stuff. It's like that's not exactly the way that Batman acts based on like almost 100 years of comic book lore. That's not really his thing whatsoever. But he tries to like flip it onto, well, it's your guys' fault because you guys are the one trying to protect your god, saying no, he can't kill people because he has morals. So like, ooh, it's like, well, if you wanted a superhero that just kills people like without the cause, and just do a Punisher movie if that's what you want to do. But this is, like I said, what we're talking about here. These people look at it's like, why should I have to be limited to the confines of the character? It's like, why does Professor X have to be, in a wheelchair? Can't he just stand up and walk around? Can't he be black if he wanted it to be? Can't he be all about the 5% Nation of Islam if we wanted to write him out? It's like, no, like this is a character that's been established for decades, well before you were even born, Mr. Bagadouche. So if you don't want to write within the confines of the essentially the character's Bible, what we know about the character, what is part of his core beliefs, then just do somebody else or do your own thing if that's what you want to do. But as we've seen with a lot of people, they want to be attached to a lot of these bigger films because, hey, Batman has notoriety, Superman has notoriety, so yeah, I want to be a part of these movies, but I don't want to do the Batman your way. I don't want to do Superman your way. I want to do it my own way, which goes completely against the character, which is just like if that's what you want to do, then go do your own Batman rip-off movie. You can create an old independent character that'd be like, what if Batman did kill people? Here's my character. Like, what if Superman killed people and he wasn't, all about truth, justice, the American way? Here's my version of Superman. Go do that if you want to. I mean, no one's stopping you from doing that.
Well, speaking of doing your own thing, we do have some breaking news. YAIRA has crossed $800,000. We'll just jump over here to the website after looking at Eric July's announcement about it, and look at that. It is $809,550 since 10 a.m., rather 11 a.m., excuse me, on Eastern Standard Time. So a little over 7 hours now.
We just finished the thumbnail that said over 800,000, and now that one is out of date. So now we have to go to another one. So
I'm just it's just gonna be dollar signs and a question mark at the end,
Yeah, we'll do 900,000, and that'll be good for about an hour.
Hour and a half, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep on trucking.
So there's a good chance that YAIRA is going to pull in about $1 million in 24 hours. There's a good chance of it. I mean, they really put their backs into this, so it's well deserved. But that's impressive. That is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, hey, like I said, I don't have any envy towards anything that Eric July is doing. Whether I agree with some of his creative choices or not, completely different situation. But this is what we've been saying we've wanted, and this is the direction that we need to go with. It's like, you don't like the Hollywood system, you don't like the 2-tier comic book system. You're either going to be a part of the club or you're not going to be a part of the club. And if you're not going to be a part of the club, you have to essentially establish like your own independent thing. That's the only way that you're going to move forward here, is that you have to essentially take creative control into your own hands if they're not going to give it to you. And Eric has done quite the job over the last couple of years, creating his own lane that he doesn't have to be associated with, the DC shills and the Marvel shills and all these other companies. He's doing his own thing. And like I said, one thing I will pause on is that we shouldn't just be sitting here relying on Eric July to do all the work himself. There should be a lot of people being inspired to also do their own thing. Like this guy up here who has his own thing that he's working on right now. How's the status on that going?
Yeah, the Colossals has finished line art, and it's on its way to the letterer. I'm dragging my heels a little bit because of the dramatics going on in the indie crowdfunding sector. So you have to forgive me. I'm just trying to play it safe.
Yeah, we can talk about that one later on because there's a lot of landmines around there. But like I said, the point is that, like I said, everyone should. You got to take creativity in your own hands at this point, because I think that the well is too poisoned to try to salvage anything that's going on the mainstream corporate side of things right now. You got to be your own source of entertainment, and it's sad to say that, but I mean, it is what it is. You're gonna play the hands you're dealt with, or you're gonna make another move.
Well, speaking of making another move, Ryan Gosling made a lot of moves last night, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we watched this live. So last night, in case you guys didn't know, which you probably didn't know, because I don't think too many people watched the awards except for me, Rick, and Rob. We did the Oscars last night, 2024. And Barbie was one of the stars of the show. They got a lot of nominations, didn't get a whole lot of wins. I think this not even this song, they ended up giving it to the Billie Eilish song, which I think Billie Eilish now has like more Oscars than like Martin Scorsese on paper now, which makes no sense whatsoever, but this is the way that Hollywood is. But Ryan Gosling, because his song was nominated, he did a live performance of I'm Just Ken, and he came out in the whole pink garb. He had all the cowboys around him. The stars that were in the role of Ken for the movie joined him on stage. So it was a whole extravaganza, and it was very funny watching this because you couldn't tell early on whether Ryan Gosling actually wanted to do this or not, because part of him looked like he couldn't believe that he was like sitting there like performing I Am Ken, like he just wanted to die inside. But then at a certain point he's like, you know what, if we're just gonna go full clown world, I'll just accept it. So here we are. So it turned out to be one of the biggest bright spots of the entire night. Everyone completely dug Ken, and yep, one win for Barbie. Like I said, I was rooting for I Am Ken to win. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's like, this was a movie that was made specifically to attack the patriarchy, to attack men. Obviously, America Ferrera got a nomination just for her monologue about how women always have to live up to the standards of men and that nonsense. And I wanted, all that put aside, I wanted literally this song. The only thing to be win an Oscar for this movie was a song about Ken, not about Barbie. Had nothing to do with any of the women here. It's like Ken was the only person that anyone liked about this film, unironically. And I think that they knew that they probably would have gotten heat if they had given it to him. So it's like, okay, fine, we'll give it to the big titty goth chick again, who, you know, she'll get another win.
Well, that's what it is that so many people blew up when he won the People's Choice Awards, I think is what happened with that, right? It was
Yeah.
People's Choice. When I'm Just Ken won the People's Choice Awards, all these people went freaky right on Twitter about Billie Eilish not getting it. And I have a feeling that the Oscar judges decided, oh, well, we don't want to send these people into an early grave, so we better give Billie Eilish this time, or they're actually going to do something.
Yeah, right. So I mean, yeah, I guess you got to watch those Billie Eilish stands out there, because you know they can be just a little bit crazy. So you know, it is what it is. But yeah, like I said, this was one of the few bright spots of the night last night. I guess we can parlay a little bit into kind of what happened last night. So Oppenheimer pretty much dominated the award ceremony from top to bottom last night, which I don't have a problem with, because at the end of the day, Oppenheimer, I felt like, was the best movie of the entire year. It was one of the highest grossing films, being only to Barbie. I say Christopher Nolan finally got his directing Oscar. Robert Downey Jr. won. I believe the film won for Best Picture as well. All of these things happened all across the board, and yeah, the film rightfully got its just rewards. I think Christopher Nolan probably was his best directed film to date, which says a lot, considering like all the films that he's done up to this. But the performances he got out of this movie really set him aside to probably his best work to date. Cillian Murphy also won for best actor as well, with Robert Downey Jr. So it was a big night for Oppenheimer, so they got their just awards. So that was really just a story of last night for the most part. And then of course you had the other story, which goes on to, I guess, another person that we can talk about who's in our title for tonight here, Mr. Jonathan Cena, who was a big part of last night for probably all the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so John Cena. So here's how bad it was last night. We all watched this live as it happened. They were doing a bit based on the fact that, hey, you know, 50 years ago when there was an Oscar, there was a streaker who just ran up on stage. And first of all, how did a streaker literally like make his way all the way backstage to take off his clothes and then run on during the podcast? Like, that never made any sense to me. That was like kind of like a big missing chunk there. But John Cena decided that he was going to play up to this, so he literally got on stage naked, quote unquote, with you know, just, you know, certain things covered up on stage during the Academy Awards. And it was so bad that literally humiliation ritual trended on Twitter for 24 hours, because that's what a lot of people were calling this. Yeah, John Cena. Like, we've all, so just in case you guys aren't familiar with John Cena, this is the guy who was obviously, you can argue, the biggest star in WWE for the last 15, 20 years. Like, he was WWE after guys like Rock and Steve Austin all left and went and did their own things. The WWE put the entire company on John Cena's back, and he was the guy for many, many years there for that company. And over the last, I say, 5-6 years now, he's kind of transitioned into doing the Hollywood thing. So he's been doing a whole bunch of, like, Hollywood projects, some more dignifying than others, some not so dignifying. And part of him being in this Hollywood bubble now, because he wants to be a part of the club, is that he had to kowtow to the Chinese government, because we all know he was promoting Fast X a couple of years ago. He mentioned that Taiwan is a country, which is a big no-no in the country of China. So John Cena, who literally learned Mandarin so that he could be a part of this industry, so he can do movies that are specific to China, had to do a full-blown apology in Mandarin, fluent Mandarin. And obviously that's gave all the memes of, John Cena, who a guy who's basically just a complete sellout to the Chinese government. And now it seems like he's trying to progress to being even deeper into the Hollywood bubble now. So as you all know, his HBO show, Peacemaker, has gotten big waves for Warner Brothers. So they're working on season 2. He has a few other projects coming up down the line. So it's like, hey, you want to keep being a part of the club. Here's some of the things that you got to do here. So you had him showing up naked on the Oscars last night. Then you have this movie, which is a movie that people have known about for a while, because I think there was a set photo that leaked several months ago showing John Cena, and he was wearing like literally a skirt and like fishnet stockings and like whatnot, and people were like, what the hell has happened like to John Cena? It's like, keep in mind, you're talking about kids and people who remember John Cena being like, the big badass hero who went face to face with The Rock at WrestleMania, and he can rip anyone a new one on the mic. And now they're seeing him naked, wearing dresses, completely degrading himself in all of these like movies. And people are like, well, what's going on with like John Cena here? So this is a film that debuted on Amazon last week called Ricky Stenicki. And like I said, this is a film that's really more of a concept than it is an actual movie. The whole concept here is that 3 kids create this character, this imaginary friend called Ricky Stenicki, so that they can blame all of their bad deeds on, right? So it's like they accidentally set a house on fire. Who did it? Oh, it was some kid called Ricky Stenicki, and it worked. So for the next 20 years, they've been creating like this character to get out of like all of their bad deeds, or say that, oh, baby, no, I'd love to go to my baby shower right now, but Ricky Stenicki has cancer, so we have to fly out to, Atlantic City to go visit him because he has no fans and family and whatnot, and they're just going up there drinking and whatnot. So the lie catches up with him because his wife has a baby. They weren't there, so in order to avoid getting into trouble, it's like, well, hey, we have to hire a real guy to be Ricky Stenicki so that people think that we weren't lying about everything for the last 20 years. So they hired John Cena, who's in the movie as a failed actor who is claim to fame is that he does masturbation cover songs of popular 80s rock. So there's literally an entire montage online where he's doing like Guns N' Roses and like Alice Cooper and all these things, where he's basically just doing like masturbation puns to like all of their songs. And then by the way, you're muted, so I wasn't here if you were talking there, but
I was just gonna say that was I'm glad you saved it there. I was a little worried on what exactly they were going on in that song. So yeah.
So like I said, the character is
Comedy.
and this is like I said, the character is very self-deprecating in every way, shape, or form. And it's weird because on one hand, he is kind of the best part about this film, because the only other person they have on here is like Zac Efron, and like Zac Efron is dating like a black journalist, and that's kind of like his whole thing, but he's playing the straight man throughout the entire film. So it's like he's not really like playing up to like John Cena's comedy bits whatsoever. He's just kind of more like reacting. That's his role in the film. The other two really don't play any kind of role whatsoever. I think Jermaine Fowler is in the movie. He's literally only in the movie because it's like, hey, he's a gay character, so that should give us a good rating on GLAAD when they do their studio index at the end of the year. So that's his whole purpose of the film. But like I said, this is an idea where it's like, okay, he's pretending to be this Ricky character, then he leaves, and it's like, okay, well, that's pretty much the end of the movie. And then they have to bring him back because Ricky got a job at like the real firm, and now he's pretending that he's really like Ricky Stenicki, and now they're trying to find ways to get rid of him. And I'm just like, this idea is like a Saturday Night Live sketch that they stretched out to like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
And then here's the most egregious thing about this whole thing. Guess how many screenwriters this film has?
6.
6 screenwriters. 6 credited screenwriters worked on this movie.
Now, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. I just guessed blindly. Like, I thought, like, what's a ridiculous number of people to be working on a comedy about nothing at all? Okay, 6. Okay, 6. 6 people came up with putting John Cena in a Sailor Moon. No, it's like a
Britney
Catholic schoolgirl?
Spears.
Britney Spears
Yeah,
cosplay. It took 6 people to come up with that.
Yeah. So here's the writers of this film: Josh Burnell, Brian Jarvis, James Lee Freeman, Peter Finelli, Pete Jones, and then Michael Carrion. Those are the 6 screenwriters who are all involved in the making of it. 6 people wrote this movie, and it has absolutely nothing to it. Like I said, it's an interesting concept for like the first 20 minutes, and then you meet John Cena's character and you're kind of annoyed, and then he kind of like you build him into the fold, and it's like, okay, I get it, he's trying to pass off as their friend. And then by the time you get to like 40 minutes into the film, it's like, okay, we're done here. Like, what? There's no justification for this movie even existing at this point, outside of just putting John Cena in positions where he's humiliating himself. It's like when he's not dressing up as Britney Spears from 25 years ago, it's like his whole side shtick is like, oh yeah, I'm an alcoholic, so I'm at the airport and I'm puking into trash bins and I'm pissing on myself in front of the entire like airport, and like it's all in the veil of comedy. There's like, oh, just ha ha ha. So it feels like with this movie and what they were doing last night with the Oscars, it just feels like they're putting John Cena through like this humiliation like
A
train
hazing
right
ritual.
now. A hazing ritual, right? But that's literally what's going on now, because it's like, here you got a guy who was one of the top pro wrestlers of the last 20 years, like quite literally kept the WWE alive for many, many years there. Great look, even though he's like in his mid 40s now, he's still like one of like the biggest dudes, like body wise, like in the company. He can do comedy, like he is like pretty funny in situations. He can do comedy, he can do improv, he can be your action star. There's a lot of ways you can use John Cena. Yeah, it just seems like they're just like making a joke out of him, and because he wants to be a part of this Hollywood club now, because his WWE days are pretty much winding down to where he may be done in the next year or two. It's like, this is what he has to do in order to earn favor with his job. And I think even Razorfist mentioned it like last night when he brought this up. It's like, dude, not even The Rock and Dave Bautista has sold out to the point of what John Cena has done in just the last like few years alone. It's like those guys sold out, but John Cena is like creating a whole new level of sellout right now. And it's not good. It's like people are even like going back to like looking at, man, this was the guy that I put all of my faith into in his WWE run, the whole hustle, loyalty, and respect, and WWE champion going up against like The Rock and CM Punk and all these guys, and like this is what it's come down to now.
Well, again, I mean, like, as Doba Fett points out, he says Armageddon had around 6 writers, and, none of them liked NASA. None of them liked NASA.
No.
And that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with 6 writers who probably knew that they were working on a movie with John Cena. This seems like one of those backwards produced movies where they've got a group of guys that'll do something funny, but they don't have anything funny for them to do. It feels sort of backwards engineered. And
Yeah.
so this is my guess, is that these 6 people hated John Cena. Or at least 5 out of 6 of them hated John Cena and just wanted to do the worst shit they could to him.
I mean, it feels like I said, the whole point of like these rituals is like there's a bunch of people in the room and they're thinking to themselves, how far can we push John Cena before he pushes back? Like
Before
how
he
far
walks off set, yeah. How
Exactly,
It's
it's like-
going to be.
It's like how far can we push this man before he just says, you know what, it's not worth my dignity anymore. It's like, oh yeah, well, let's put you up as like Britney Spears and put makeup on you and have you like piss yourself in like in an airport. That'll be funny, right? That'll be self-dedicating. It's like, oh yeah, we got an idea for you with the Academy Awards. We're gonna strip you completely naked in front of the entire world on national television, and then like for the sake of comedy, and that's gonna be a whole big bit, and everyone's gonna laugh at you, and it's gonna be like, that's what it feels like that they're doing here. And then, look, I can't be I can't sit here and like if John Cena won't go to bat for himself, I can't sit here and go to bat for him like as well. But
Yep.
I mean, I've seen him in things where he's utilized a lot better. Like I think we talked about the first Vacation Friends movie was actually like pretty good. That was a Hulu movie, and like I said, John Cena can do well with comedy. You've seen him in like movies like Suicide Squad, even in Fast X, even though those movies are like objectively stupid. You know, he still looks good in that, but. I mean, that's kind of the realm that I will use him, where he can be kind of use his comedic chops and do his action stuff as well. But I don't know. It seems like there's more to the story or going on here. It seems like John Cena is just a part of a much bigger joke, and no one really knows like what the punchline is to this joke.
Right. And but at least they laughed, right? At least somebody did anyway. Unlike Jimmy
Yeah.
Kimmel's jokes last night.
Oh yeah, so Jimmy Kimmel had a rough night last night because objectively he's not funny. Like he's just not. I mean, for those of you guys old enough to remember Jimmy Kimmel, his claim to fame is that I think he was on Ben Stein's show like way back in the day. Then he parlayed that into doing the Man Show with Adam Carolla, and that's where a lot of people remember him for because he got to play this misogynist sexist pig, and it was all for the sake of like comedy and whatnot. So he did like all of these like over the top bits, and people remember these bits to this day. They still liked him. They ended up giving him his own show on ABC. Disney gave him his own late night show because they wanted someone to compete with Jay Leno and David Letterman, so he became that guy. But over the course of the last 10 years, he's become less of a late night comedian and more of a corporate Washington controlled shill because like he doesn't do comedy anymore like on his shows. Every single night it's all about I'm going to talk bad about Republicans, I'm going to talk bad about conservatives, I'm going to talk bad about anyone who opposes the liberal Washington like agenda. He goes on and talking about how we need universal health care because his kid got sick, and if he didn't have universal health care, his kid would have died, even though he's like a multi-millionaire like 10 times over. He gets paid like somewhere like 15 million a year to do his show that nobody watches and whatnot, and he just goes on grandstanding, like I said, not just against politicians but literally people who do not vote the same way as him. He absolutely despises those people, and this is the guy who they keep bringing on year after year after year to be like, hey, you want to be the Academy Award host? Because hey, we tried to get Kevin Hart a couple of years ago, but then you guys went and tried to cancel him because he didn't apologize for some gay jokes he told back in 2006. So now he doesn't want to be a part of it, and no self-respecting comedian wants to be a part of this, especially after what happened a couple of years ago with Chris Rock. It's like, why would you even be at this point? So like, he's the only guy they can hire here, and like I said, he's not funny, he's not a witty comedian. He tried to do this whole riffing thing with Robert Downey Jr. last night, and the jokes were just awful. Like even Robert, who was like trying to like play along with it, was like, really, that's the best joke he got? Like it even got awkward for him. So it wasn't good. But right towards the very end of the show, I guess Trump made a tweet on Truth Social about him just being an awful host, is not funny, and like the award show is bad. So he decided to take it on upon himself to be like, hey, Trump just tweeted about me, I'm gonna read the entire tweet. So he read everything Trump said about him, and then his punchline is, isn't it past your jail time? Which obviously got a huge standing ovation for all the liberal progressives in Hollywood. I thought that was just the best zinger they've ever heard in their entire life, and everyone was just kind of like, really, that's the best that you have there from a guy who literally just said that you suck and you're probably the worst host that's ever been a part of this ceremony in 96 years.
Yep.
So I mean, that's what it comes down to with Jimmy Kimmel. Like I said, it's not just Kimmel. What's his face? John Oliver is another one. Stephen Colbert is another one. These are all paid propagandists at this point. They're not doing comedy on their shows. They're not trying to make people laugh. Matter of fact, keep in mind, John Oliver a couple of years ago went after Jay Leno. If you remember Jay Leno, he was the biggest late night host in the game for several years. Like he was the most viewed host, and Leno was like, hey, look, when I did my show, I just wanted to make people laugh. So it was like, we would touch on politics every now and then, but we made fun of both sides. And it was never like mean spirited or anything like that. It's like, I just wanted to entertain people because I respect Johnny Carson. And that's kind of the guy who I idolized back then. So I wanted to live up to his legacy. And John Oliver attacked Jay Leno because obviously Oliver is one of these guys that's all about, attacking your political enemy. So he took it as a personal attack and trashed him and stuff like that. And this is what you have now. All these guys that came from the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, who all they know is like a political quote unquote satire, and that's how they disguise their comedy. And this is why nobody watches late night television anymore, because it's like there's no one to watch. Probably the best guy by default is like Jimmy Fallon. He's a drunk who has a bunch of women writing his show, so you can't even watch him. So you got nobody.
Yep. But on the other end of the spectrum, it wasn't all bad news over there. It was also Godzilla Minus One, I believe, is the first Japanese produced production to win an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So keep in mind, Godzilla Minus One, a film that took what 12 million estimated to make a $12 million movie, wiped the floor with all of these other films that cost anywhere from 200 to 300 million dollars on production alone. And here comes this little art house Japanese studio who's like, you know what, we're gonna make a Godzilla movie, and it's gonna be the best Godzilla movie you've probably seen in 60 years. And then they absolutely smash it. It's like the effects of that Godzilla movie, especially compared to the one that the Americans got coming out here in the next few years, like they absolutely knocked it out of the park, and they deserve to win this Oscar. And I'm glad they did. Some people were obviously trying to be a little bit upset. It's like, oh, why are we letting these foreigners come in and win these awards? Oh, now all of a sudden we all care about foreigners coming in and taking our acclamation here. Like, that's the card you guys want to play because you're that jealous. It's like, come on now. But yeah, I mean, look, they did an amazing job with Godzilla Minus One. Everyone who saw that movie loved it. It's one of their top movies of the entire year. And they not only did they make Hollywood look bad with $12 million, now you have to contend that one with the Godzilla versus Kong movie, where you got Kong jumping on Godzilla's back like he's a 64 Impala riding off into the sunset as they take on giant Donkey Kong in the next movie. And it's like, this is what the Americans do. This is how we're going to counter. This is our counterpunch right here. And then you wonder why, like I said, the little Japanese art studio just absolutely embarrassed the entire industry with what they were able to do. So,
well, and Alpha Proto asked here, with DEI requirements, how did Godzilla Minus qualify for an Oscar? And I think that just defaulted to the fact that it's Japanese people. So because it's not white people, it's okay. I think that's really all it came up to.
yeah, DEI just means no white people. That's really what it means. They don't actually care about like diversity. It's like they were talking about, oh, but look at how diverse Black Panther is. So the majority white guy, where like literally like Martin Freeman is like the only white person in the entire film, and they're like, oh, but this is so diverse. So yeah.
Right, diversity means not white. That's what diverse means.
Yeah,
however you get there.
We all know they've been using this as a code now, but now they've gotten to the point where they no longer have to pretend like they're not using it as a code.
Right. And that's, that's just what's good about this too, is that not only did this have a win, but also Miyazaki's film, The Boy and the Heron, did. However, the people who lost to that were not quite so gracious. In fact, had to issue an apology.
Oh yeah, so this effeminate looking man in a pink dress and a tutu over here had a little bit of a meltdown last night. So this is the voice actor of Miles Morales, who was in the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movie. And here's what I think happened. I think that a lot of these people got gaslit by Twitter, because when this film came out, Twitter was acting like this is the greatest cinematic achievement they've ever witnessed in their own eyes. I'm like, this is a movie that's like 2/3 of a film where your star character probably doesn't even show up to like an hour into the movie. Why would anyone think that this is good? But everyone was like, oh, I've never seen animation like this before. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And a lot of people just assumed that this was the runaway favorite for visual effects in the Oscars. Then right at the very end of the year, you get a little film called The Boy and the Heron, one of the few studios out there that still hand draws its animation, not CGI, not computer animated, still hand draws, old school style, and made a movie, and the animation looked absolutely stellar. And then they came in and they took the award, which they rightfully should. I mean, when you put in that much effort to make something that looks that good, you should be rewarded for it. But our buddy here, was named Shamik Moore, had a little bit of a meltdown last night. He was basically tweeting out saying that, oh, he got robbed and that Spider-Verse got robbed, and he had to then clarify like moments later after people started dunking on him on social media. It's like, yeah, I admit to being a sore loser, but I know how much this film meant to me, and I know how much this film meant to everyone who watched it, so I'm never gonna stop championing this movie. It's like, guys, this was look, I'm gonna be very, very honest with you. This was like one of my lowest tier of the movies like last year. Like I said, you don't even actually get an ending to this film. It's like a 2.5 hour like first act of a movie, and then they cut it off right before you get to the second. That's what it felt like to me.
Well, and this again, like the Spider-Verse thing, very visually stunning, right? Very visually
Hmm.
stunning. But again, when you sit down and you listen to it and you try to process what exactly they're going on about in the movie, it's just
Yeah.
nonsense. It's memes. Like
Hmm.
30% of the movie is just visual gags about Spider-Man from 4chan.
Yeah. That's really like what it was. And it's all based on this notion that everyone pretends to love Spider-Gwen and everyone pretends to love Miles Morales, and we want Miles Morales to replace Peter Parker, and that's what they're shooting for. That's why they're really going all in on this whole universe, because they want Sony to replace Peter Parker with Miles Morales, but Sony is like, we have far too much money invested into this to get rid of Peter Parker, so that's not happening. So enjoy your Miles Morales in the animated universe, because that's as close as you guys are going to get. And so that's why they have this emotional attachment to this project.
Well, and it doesn't surprise me, that they were probably fed a whole bunch of lines about it as well. It wasn't just simply, a thing that happened, a movie. It was like this big thing about their culture, what it
Yeah,
is to
right.
be. Miles
Yeah, because
Morales is you.
because Spider Gwen had Trans Lives Matter sticker on her wall.
Yeah, I don't think I think there was a lot more going on with Spider-Gwen. I think she was smuggling sausage too. I think that's what that meant. But
Hey, it
you
wouldn't
know,
surprise me at this point.
you know who doesn't though? YAIRA. YAIRA doesn't
Mm,
smuggle sausage, and she's sitting at $818,000. That's right. Since we checked in on it a half an hour ago, it went up
mm.
$9,000 in a
Oh
half an
yeah.
hour. Okay, so this is hot right now. Get on it before the hackers come back and wipe out the website again, guys. I'll put the link in the chat for you. Make sure to just sit through the waiting period. This is to make sure that the DDoS bots can't wreck the website with rapid refresh. So you're gonna need a second here when you jump in, but it's worth it. Check it out. See that trailer. We can't show it here, obviously. It's well earned copyright protection. This is a very expensive thing to make that Eric put out there. Very worthy thing that he did. Again, like
Mm.
the accent's a little wonky for me, but man, nothing compares to Avery crashing into that Kia right in the first scene. That's great. That's so
Oh
great.
yeah.
Yep, very much so. There's a good chance that YAIRA could make $1 million in 24 hours.
Yeah. I'd say if it doesn't hit $1 million by noon tomorrow, I will be shocked.
Right. There's a definite problem. Somebody
Yeah.
somewhere in a central bank has ordered a hit.
Yeah, exactly.
So that brings us to the end of our program before we get assassinated. So feel free to hit like, subscribe, and slap that bell because we go live around here on Wednesdays and Thursdays as well. 01 stream on Wednesday where Jacob and I return with Spencer and hopefully Josh this week to discuss whatever else has broken loose since today going forward. And then also on Thursday, Nerdigans and I knock it out of the park with a Tokyo Happy Hour where we talk about all things anime and Japanese culture. So if you're interested in things from the land of the rising sun, Thursdays at 9 p.m. is when to tune in. And Jacob, you have a
I will
show
say
after
this
this.
just real quick, that that Thursday show is just like the absolute perfect show for you two. So I hope it does work out, because like I said, I watched the first couple episodes. It's really good.
Yeah, and see, I need to talk to you about coming on because we want to dive into that Digimon anniversary happening this week. That's
Mhm.
tomorrow that kicks off. So
Yeah, unfortunately, I won't be able to do it in this Thursday, but hopefully next week we can make something work. So
well, sure, we'll
this
have
week,
more news and announcements by then, so we'll plan on it.
all right. Yeah, letting you guys know what I got coming up in about less than an hour now, actually, over on my channel, Society Reviews, on YouTube, on Rumble, and on Twitter. We're going to be doing episode 34 of the Bible Lens podcast. We're going to answer a two-part, I guess a 2-week question here, how Nephilim has influenced our world. You have a lot of non-believers out there that say that, well, they can't believe in God because there's no evidence that the Bible is true. There's no evidence that he actually existed. They don't even realize how much the story and the references to the Nephilim are so in their face. They literally go to watch $300 million Disney and Warner Brothers backed movies telling the story about the Nephilim, and they don't even realize it. So we're going to expose this on a historical level and then on a cultural level next week. So tonight's going to be the historical level. If you guys not too in tune about the whole story of how the flood happened in the first place and why there are so much stories of the flood around the world, you definitely want to check that out. That's tonight. Tomorrow night we'll be doing the Barroom podcast. I know we'll talk about Dakota Johnson possibly getting blacklisted. We'll talk more about John Cena. We have this weird story about Hannah Barron getting thrown under the bus this week because apparently people don't think that Southern women who learn how to fix houses are feminine. So we'll talk about that as well.
Oh,
So,
that. Yeah.
yeah, that whole situation. And then we'll have a couple other stories there too. And then this Friday night, we got a whole lot of movies coming up on the Friday night show. I think we're doing the Arthur the King, which is the Mark Wahlberg movie with the dog. We have Kristen Stewart's lesbian neo-noir film coming up this week as well. Then the film of the Magic Society of like Secret Negroes or something like that. Some complicated mushmouth theme. That's another one that's coming out. I think we have like 2 other movies. This is a big week for movies. So definitely stay tuned here to Bounding in the Comics, the YouTube channel, because you're gonna be able to see a lot of movie reviews this week. Because yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out. So I think I'm working on the film review for the Millie Bobby Brown movie that came out on Netflix too. So hopefully you guys will see that one up tomorrow as well. So I'll be pretty busy with a lot of content this week.
Well, all right then. And like I said, feel free to hit like and subscribe on this. We go live around here and we upload videos every day. Jacob's review of Ricky Stenicki, the latest in John Cena's continued career faux pas, is available right now, as well as an update on the mess that is Sweet Baby Inc. and X.com.
They just keep doubling down.
They really do. I wonder who's going to come out of the woodwork today and insult a dead person. Oh well. We'll catch you in the next one. And by the way, make sure you check out Jacob's show a little bit later. We'll see you in a bit.
See you later.